Now, before I get started, one of my favorite things to do when using Revit is to switch over to dark mode. Notice that I have my tool set in a dark mode here, and to do that, all you need to do is to go into options, and then on the interface, this is where you can change it to dark mode. In my case, I have switched it to match my engine style. When you go under colors, this is where you will see for the canvas color, and you can see the canvas color is white, and the UI theme is set to use system settings, which my system is set to dark mode. Now, if I go to view here, I can also switch my canvas to dark mode. So I'm going to be using that for the most part, because we're not going to be producing drawings. We're going to be just concentrating on getting this to be populated with furniture. So let's get going. Okay, so one of the first things we're going to do is let's work on the kitchen area, since that's going to be the most tricky. So if we go to a plan view here, so I'm going to switch to my level 1 plan. That's this area that we want to concentrate on. Now, this is going to be where our kitchen is going to be. And if we look at our reference plan here, the idea is that we want to put our countertop roughly in this area. We're going to have our stove here, we're going to have our sink here, and we're going to have our kitchen here and our pantry in this rough spot. So that's the general layout that we're going to be using following this layout that we have here. All right, so the first thing we want to do is to import some cabinetry in this scene. And to do that, we're going to go to architecture, we're going to go to component, and we're going to go to load. Now, when this opens up, it should open up in the default location. Note, if you were using a metric scene, a metric template in Revit, it will default you to the metric folder. But sometimes it doesn't always do that. So as you can see here, this is defaulting me to the imperial folder. So what you want to do is just check that first. If you are used to using metric systems and dimensions, you might want to go over to go back up to libraries and then just choose the English and then US. So this is now the metric version. So we're going to go over to casework, and this is where we see some cabinets here. So let's go to base cabinets. And what you can do here is switch your view over to thumbnails, and you should get an idea of what we want to do here. All right, great. So what we're going to do is place some base cabinets here. Let's grab this one. This one, as you can see, it has 2 drawers here. This one has no drawer. This is going to be the one perhaps for the sink. So let's grab that one first. Yeah, let's grab this one. And then we're going to choose where to put it. So we're going to put that one right here. If you press spacebar, you're able to rotate that. And we're going to drop that right there. Now from a plan view, you can see just the outline of the cabinet. But when we go to 3D view here, this is where you can get a better look on that cabinet. So that's going to be right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to just dock this side by side. There we go. So that we can see the 3D and have the 2D here at the same time. All right, great. So now we need 2 corner units here and here. So we're going to head back into architecture, component, load family, and let's look for a corner unit, which we can grab this one here. Now, before we grab this one here, one important point to note, the metric and imperial templates, they don't exactly mirror each other. So for example, for the metric template, this is the only corner unit we have. But if we head back up to the libraries folder, and then we switch over to the imperial US, and we're going to go over to casework, and let's go to base cabinets. Here we go. And if you notice, when you look here now, you see some other options for base cabinets. So the imperial side has these angular corner base cabinets, while the metric side only has these. So we're going to use this one from the imperial set. There we go. Doesn't matter which one you use, they're going to come out to be the same size. So there we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to just snap that into place. That's right there. All right, lovely. We're probably going to want these to line up. And in order to do that, we need to go in and change the dimensions. So let's make this side a little smaller. There we go. And let's adjust this. So we're going to use the align tool. Okay, actually we can just drag it. All right, so we can see that this corner cabinet is a little large, and also it's not fully aligned with this cabinet here. So if we look in the properties, and then we go over to edit type, you can see where we can adjust the height and width and depth. Now the main reason for this, perhaps because we're using two different units, one is metric, one is imperial, so that's why you will see a bit of a mismatch. If you don't want to adjust this every time, you could just use everything from the imperial set. I tend to do that a lot. So let's go back to component, go to load family, and this time we're from the imperial set. We're going to load that cabinet with the one for the sink. There we go. And you notice now that you see they're aligned. So this was the metric version. We're going to delete that. And if we notice that if we work with the imperial cabinetry, all imperial, then everything will line up and we don't have to go into the edit type to change them. All right, so we're going to duplicate this on the other side. So we're going to use the mirror tool, and then I'm going to use the align tool to align this here. All right, so now what I want to do is I want this base cabinet to be the full width of this space that's right here. So I'm going to use my dimension tool and check out this space here. I can see that it's 917 millimeters. I am in a metric scene, even though I'm using imperial cabinetry. All right, so I'm going to go to edit type, and for my width, I'm going to type 917, and then I'm going to align this. All right, so there we go. We have our base cabinet so far. Now, what we want to do is, right, so we want to just, we're going to have another cabinet here where we'll have a countertop stove, or we could use an actual stove, a classical stove, whichever version. So let's try the classical stove. So we're going to need to insert another cabinet on this side. So we're going to go back to component, load family, and we're going to look for one of those cabinets, perhaps one of these base cabinets. We're going to load that in there. All right, now we need a oven. So we're going to go back. We're going to go back to load family. And for the oven, we would find that in, so we're going to look for specialty equipment. Then we're going to look under, let's look under domestic dishwasher. We see an oven top. We see a gas stove that's right here. There are a couple options we can pick. Here we go. Here's our range, typical range. So we will grab that one. We're going to drop it right there. Then we're going to adjust this to close that up. So I'm going to use the dimension tool again. So that is 777. So I'm going to go into this edit type here, and I'm going to change the width 7, and I'm going to go to align. There we go. All right, now notice all of these are just the base cabinets, and this is kind of how they do things in reality. In reality, they create the base cabinets before creating the countertops. All right, so on this side, we want to have a pantry on the left beside the fridge. We also want to have a hood for the stove and maybe some corner cabinets. So let's start to put those in. Let's see if we can find our pantry. So I'm going to go back to component and go to load. Okay, so pantry would be back under casework, tall cabinets. And these are some different sizes. Would use this one. I'm going to rotate that. I'm going to put that here. That is what it looks like. All right, now we're going to want maybe some counter space here. And then we need the fridge. So I'm going to drag this down, and then I'm going to copy this, CO to copy. Spacebar to rotate, and I'm going to drop this on this side like that. So this is what we're doing there now. Actually, I think I want to change this to a double door version. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go back to base cabinets, and let's look for one that maybe a double cabinet. I could use a double cabinet with drawers, but this one is good. There we go. Now, because this is actually loaded, I don't have to actually move this. I can see that this is called base cabinet double door 1 drawer, and I think I want double 2 drawers. Let's see if that option is there. This is double with 2 drawers. That's the one that I want. Right. So what I can do is just go here, and I can just swap this out for double with 2 drawers, and I'm just going to choose this one so I can delete these. Here we go. Now I need to change the size of this one to match it again, so I'm going to go back in. It's a good practice to always duplicate, so I'm going to duplicate this one and call it 777 millimeters, because that's the size of that I need on that side. So the width here is going to be, all right, there you go. So now I have the double drawers right there, and I think I want to use this cabinet also over here. In reality, whenever you are actually creating this, it's a good idea to use to repeat the same cabinet in different locations, because the construction is just much easier whenever you can, if the design permits. So I'm going to use back the same cabinet over this side, so you can see that I have this cabinet here, and then I want to have my refrigerator here. So I'm going to go back to component, load family. I'm going to go back. All right, so I'm going to head down to furniture, then kitchens, and there we go. This is a pretty typical fridge to drop this in. There we go. And that would be our refrigerator. That's right there. All right, now what we want to do is we want to have some upper cabinets now. So we're going to look for some wall cabinets. So we want this wall to stretch above the refrigerator, and then we want to have some wall cabinets all along the wall here. So we're going to head back into components, go to load family, and this time we're going to head back to casework. And remember guys, you can also drag a shortcut over here. So I can actually drag casework here, so I can just go there next time and I don't have to go to each folder every time. All right, so we're going to now look for wall cabinets, and there are some different ones. We're going to grab this one here, this one, upper cabinet with glass, which is okay, and that one has to be mounted to the wall. Notice that if I'm not hovering over a wall, you don't see it. So I'm going to drop that one right here, and you can see that's the base cabinet right there. Now we're not going to worry too much about details like the fridge style. We can always, usually what we want to do in Revit is get a representation for the purpose of producing floor plans. So if you look at my floor plan now over here, you can see this is the main objective of Revit. We want to highlight the floor plan, and we want to have basic representation of the equipment. Now, if we want more custom equipment, like let's say we wanted a double door refrigerator and we don't have it in our library, we would have to go to another website in order to find that. So there are some cool websites out there. If you just Google Revit family library or Revit family catalog, you will find a bunch of websites there. One of the more open source websites that you can go to is going to be Revit City, and it's free to join. And I can just type fridge, that's here, and you will get more options for other fridge. So like we can take this large one here, and usually you see a little description here. You know, some of them will say things like, you tell you if it's parametric, that it means you can edit it. Fully parametric, side by side, stainless steel. You can adjust height, width, depth, dispenser height. This one seems pretty cool because it's fully parametric, so I'm going to just download that. Here it is. I'm going to just drag that over into Revit, and it's going to open up in my family editor. I'm going to just say load into, well, let me see, do I want this one? Maybe this one is a little tall. Let's look for some other options. And this is the great thing about Revit City. There usually so much options that are there. All right, so I'm going to go load into project and close this time. Okay, now once we have this fridge loaded, we're going to delete this one, and we're going to press spacebar to rotate it and just drop it in location. We're going to put the pantry right beside it. So this is what we have here. It's a little bit wider, right? So this is what we have there. Now this fridge does have a kind of a cover, upper cover, and we can actually change the height of that because this is a parametric refrigerator. So for example, if we click it and look in our edit type settings, notice that we can edit the width, the height, the cover height, that's this area here, right door width, bottom of dispenser, so we can actually adjust the height of the dispenser. So this is a pretty cool fridge. All right, so now we need to load our cabinets, or upper cabinets. So let's go back to component. We did already have it there, so we're just going to put it back. All right, now we need to kind of decide how we're going to do our design here. In some cases, you can have upper cabinets that are very deep, right? Depending on the depth of the refrigerator, and we can do that with this cabinet here. Same thing with the pantry. We can actually make the pantry be a little deeper. Well, what I would do here is, let's look at the width of our upper cabinet. Let's look at the depth. So right now, oops, let's put this back to the wall. Let's take the dimension here. So it's 600. So we can actually duplicate this and say this is going to be 600 mm, and then the depth, we're going to make that 6. So now this is the same depth that we have there. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to make this pantry maybe taller, because ideally we would want to maybe have some space at the top of our refrigerator. So what we can do is adjust this top height here. If we go to edit type, right now the cover height is 256. We can make that 150. Let's see if that will work. Right, so now this is actually a little bit lower. Now we're not going to worry too much about this, because we can change we can change out this fridge if we want. So if the type of fridge we want is one that doesn't have this at the top, we can always change that out later. What's important is that we need to select a height. So I'm going to work with this with the height that we have. If I go to my view here, and I'm going to just draw a section line like this, and I'm going to draw it this way. Notice I get a section marker here. I can click that and I can look at my section view. So right now, if I go to my dimension tool, this dimension is coming in at 2000. So let's say we want to use that as our height. So what we're going to do is let's align this here. And then we're also going to make the height of the tall cabinet be, we're going to let that be 2466. So we're going to go into the cabinet and we're going to say height. All right. So there we have the top cabinets there now. Now we need to have the other wall cabinets on this side, and then have a corner cabinet that's going to be there as well. So let's go back to our plan view, and we're going to go back to component and load. All right, so we're going to go back to casework. Remember, we saved our folder here, and go to wall cabinets. And okay, so this one is the glass doors. This one is without the glass doors. So we can mix it up a bit. Let's take one with the glass doors first, and it has to be attached to a wall again. So we're going to attach this one here. There we go. And we're going to manipulate the dimensions of this, and it's good to do this in a section view. So we're going to align this there, and we want this height here, this height to be based on real world recommendations. If we take a look back on the mirror board, this is under the tips and guide sections. You will notice that we have some typical dimensions here, some guidelines for kitchens, and we can see that, you know, you want the height of this to be 500 millimeters. You know, we don't want it to be 500, if you can see here. Instead, we want it to be between 600 and 700, which is what is recommended here. So let's make this 700. So what I'm going to do is put a dimensions here, and you know, we can make it 750 just to be on the safe side. And now we're going to change our scale to a little bit smaller. That will make our text smaller. All right. And we know that we want the height of this to be 839. So we're going to go into edit type and duplicate this. And we're going to make this 839 height. All right. So 839. All right. There we go. We also want the width to be the width of this cabinet down here. So 780. So we want the width to be 780, and we're gonna align it. Okay, we need to change the width of this one as well to be the width of the space for the fridge. So now in reality, we might want to let these spaces be wider, like to give it a like a 2-inch buffer around the fridge and the stove, right? So remember that. So this needs to be 208 and 908. So we're gonna change this to width 908. In this case, we're just going to make it the exact dimension, so we're not going to worry too much about that buffer. All right, lovely. All right, so now we need to work with the corner unit. We want to put a single unit here and then the corner unit. So if we take a look in 3D, this is what is happening. All right, so let's go ahead and load a component, and we're going to load a corner unit, wall cabinet, for wall cabinet corner square, or we could load this angular version. Let's load the square version. Let's use a plan view to get it in, so we know we want it to be there. All right, and then we're going to need one in this space here. So let's go back to our section view. We already know that we want to align this like that. We already know that the height we want to be 839. Okay, this always a good idea to duplicate the default cabinet. There we go. Then we want to fill this space here, so we're gonna need a single cabinet that needs to be 303. So we are going to load another one. Maybe we can load a non-glass version. Let's go to our plan view and we're gonna load it right here. Let's go back to the section, align this. And we know that this needs to be 839 by 303. So 839 by 303. All right. There we go. So we pretty much everything on this side. So we're not going to be putting anything where the windows are. And we're pretty much going to be putting this same thing on the other side. So we're just going to choose this option, which creates similar. So we can create a similar one on this side. Same thing for this. And we're going to leave a gap here. And we're going to put another glass unit here. I think we need to adjust this a little bit. Right, there we go. All right, we need to double check some of our measurements here just to make sure that this is accurate. So 7, right, our width needs to be 707. There we go. All right, and we also need to fix the depth. So we want it to be 305 in depth. That's good. And let's adjust this one now. And this needs to be 308 actually. So 8, let's rename this 308. And then we're gonna align this. All right, okay, so on this side here we want to put another cabinet over here. So on this side we can get that there. All right, now we need to align the heights of everything. So we can actually use our section and we can flip it to this side. The elevation from level, which is 1626, needs to be the same here. There we go. And we're gonna align this to the wall and align this cabinet together like that. All right, same height for these guys here. Okay, now we need another cabinet here, perhaps with a hood below it. So we're gonna grab the same cabinet that we have over the fridge and place it on this side. But of course we're gonna resize it. So from a plan view, we know that we want the depth of that cabinet to be 305 and we want the width to be 610. So we're gonna duplicate this and say 305 by 610. That's what we're gonna name it. 6. Then we're gonna align that, and let's use our section view here. All right, looking good. Now we could have a microwave here and along with a hood. So let us look for that. We are almost there with our kitchen. Looking pretty good. All right. Okay, so what we need to do is to go back to Revit City, and I found a nice microwave here, and to download this one. All right, so I'm going to load this one into the project. All right, we're just going to drop it right there. Oh, there it is. It's actually right here. So we're going to align this right there. There we go. All right, now we're going to try this one. Let's try the width, 607. Okay, good. And the height, 382. Let's make it a little smaller than 382. Maybe, oh, we need space for the hood that's going to be below it. Actually, no, we're going to leave it. We're going to leave it at 382 height. 382. Let's see if that works. All right, great. Actually, I think these cabinets are possibly too high, so we might need to adjust that. But before we do, let's put our microwave in. Great. All right. Oh, let's go from the plan view. Oh, wow, the depth is quite big, so we need to change the depth to maybe to 305. Let's see if that works. Oh, this one, let's see if the arrow will still take us there. Okay, good, it still works. That's good. All right, so now our microwave fits in lovely, and we pretty much have our kitchen cabinetry. All we need now is the countertop and the sink. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to remove these dimensions here. All right, now for our countertop, we are going to need a component. So we're going to go to load, and we are going to go to, again, this time we go to casework and countertops. All right, so we have some options here. We have the L and we have the sink. So we need these two. So we're gonna load these two. Oh, we only can load one at a time. Okay, so let's load the L first. It's actually here. Let's align this properly, and we can actually adjust this in real time. So align, and for this side, we're gonna align it to here, and then we're gonna mirror this, mirror copy. We're going to push it all the way to the back. There we go. In this case, we need to adjust this way. And then we're going to need another counter So we're going to go back here, go to load family, typical countertop. And then we need to load the one with the sink. Here we have one with the sink. Put that in. We are going to try and move this to the center. There we go. Now this height is a little different and the depth is a little different. So we need to change that. And the height of this here is height 914.4. So we need this to be the same height. There we go. That's good. We also need to adjust the length. So the depth is 635. So this depth needs to be 635. All right. There we go. All right. And if we look there, you can see that we have our kitchen pretty much completed. Okay, so now that we have our model complete, let's talk about how we can set up the sheets to have our drawings laid out for plan and our internal elevations. So what we want to do now is go to the plan view. And if you remember, we had drawn this section here, which we are using to kind of help us out when we were creating the cupboards. Now we're not going to need this anymore, so we're going to delete that, and that's fine. And what we're going to do is create a sheet that we can have for our floor plan and interior elevations as well. So one of the first things we're going to do is we need to create some interior elevations, and we also need to create some sheets. So I'm going to scroll down here to where it says sheets, and I'm going to create a new sheet. And notice that I have a default sheet here. Now, if this is not the sheet that I want, I'm going to go to load, and I'm going to be taken back to my Revit library. I'm going to look under title blocks, under annotations, and then title blocks. And here you will see some different sheets here. So I am going to take the A2, A3, and this is the A4 vertical, maybe the A3, and I'm going to open that up and I'm going to choose OK. All right, now this is an A3 sheet, and we can use the dimension line and draw a dimension here to get the idea of how big this is. This is in millimeters though. If I go here and for my dimensions, I go to edit type and I can say show me alternate units below and show my alternate units to be inches. I can use the inch symbol. It's okay. Right, so you see that this is 17 inches by 12. So this is 12 by 17. Now, regardless of whatever template you choose, it doesn't matter. If you did not have this particular template, it doesn't matter because we're going to pretty much create our own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this template family, and I might want to keep some of these, but maybe not all of them. So I'm going to keep project name, and I'm going to keep sheet name and scale. So I'm going to keep all of these here, and probably the sheet name and drawing scale. Now everything else I'm pretty much going to delete, and I want to make this size here to be a letter size. So I know that in order to do that, I would want to let's go ahead and enable alternate units for this one as well. So I'm going to say alternate units below and show me inches. There we go. Right. So I know that I want to make this here 11 inches. So I'm going to say 11. And for this one here, I'm going to say 8.5 inches, 8.5 inches. So I know this will be the size of our letter size. Now I can just get rid of most of these lines, and I'm going to keep the project name, the sheet name, and the scale, and that's it. Let me delete these, and this is going to be my new sheet template. I'm going to save this family, so I'm going to go to save as family, and I'm going to save this one in the folder that I'm working from. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to create a folder and family, and I'm going to name it there, and I'm going to call it title block letter. So there you go. And I'm going to load this into my project. So now if I go to sheets here, I can click on this and change it from title block A3 to title block letter. All right, I'm going to delete these dimensions now. So now I know that this is letter size, which is great. So regardless of if you have the family, the title block family that I have, I never used it anyway. I just deleted it and created my own, right? So this is all we want to do for this one. Now, what we want to do is to drag the floor plan. So I'm going to expand floor plan and drag level 1 onto my sheet here. And you will see that this is 1 in 100 scale. Now, what we want to do is we want it to be large enough just for our kitchen. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this window here and we're going to change the scale to a bigger scale, maybe 1 in 25. There we go. Now, the next thing we want to do is crop this down. So we're going to double click this and we're going to show our crops here, and we're going to crop this down to just the kitchen. There we go. And oops, there we go. We're going to double click back out here and then we're going to put this on our letter size sheet. We could probably crop it down some more. Let's crop it all the way to the wall, and let's leave that window intact. All right, that's great. We have that there. Next, what we want to do, maybe we want to turn off the crop, so we just have that if we want. All right, so we have one item on our sheet. Let's double click back on the outside to come back to our sheet. Now we want to get some interior elevations. So what we're going to do is go back to level 1. And notice that when we go back to level 1, it is cropped because we did crop it for the sheet. And we're going to go to view and we're going to go to elevations. And then we're going to place this elevation view inside here. Now, it doesn't matter which direction it turns. You just need to click and press escape. Now you have inserted a view and notice that this is pointing this way. So this is giving me an elevation that way. What you have to do is you have to click on the circle, right? And that part is going to be important. You need to click on the circle and not the arrow, right? So clicking on the circle, we want to enable this elevation and enable that elevation. Now we don't want to enable this one because we just want to see these 3 elevations. Now once we enable them, if you look over here on the elevations, you see that they are already created. So if I double click this, this is what that elevation looks like. And we have this one, and then we have that one. So all these elevations are already created, right? Now what we're going to do, let's close these. We're going to go back to our sheet here and let's drag the first elevation onto our sheet. Now, right away, we know that we just want this part of the elevation. So we're going to double click, turn on our crop on, and then we're going to crop this all the way down to here. And yeah, just to there, because we're showing internal elevation. So we don't need to show the wall section. So maybe just to here where we can see the top of the wall. Now we also have a title here. We can leave it right there. And how the title works, if you click on the image on the viewport, you will see the end of the title line comes up and you can just drag that. All right, and you can just position that on your sheet. Now if this is too big, what you can do is make it smaller. I can click on this and I can make it 1 in 50. So there is one elevation that's right there. I can choose if I want to have the title or not. If I click here, I can choose the viewport that says no title, and then it won't get any title, right? All right, now for the other views, so I want to do the same. I can drag this view out. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click on it, change it to 1 in 50, and I'm going to adjust my boundaries. All right, there you go. And let me turn off the boundaries here. Let me do the same thing for this one. Let me turn the boundaries off. All right, and I'm also going to say no title for this one. And then my last elevation, I'm going to drag on here, which is going to be this one. Same thing again. I'm going to set that to be 50, and I'm going to adjust my boundaries again, say no title. All right, now I could probably put these two side by side, perhaps. And maybe what I want to do is disable the level. So I'm going to right click and choose hide. Same thing for here, hide, and same thing for here, like that. So there you go. Now I'm also going to change this canvas theme to the white because this looks more like a drawing. All right, so that is pretty much it. So that is how I would get my internal elevations. And if you notice, your internal elevations is already telling you that elevation 2, 4, and 3 is located on sheet A101. All right, so this is good stuff, and I could go ahead and name this sheet. So I could call it Chin and Elevations. I could just call it Sim Design. There we go. Now, the thing, what we must understand is that for doing your drawings in Revit, it's not about trying to detail exactly what these cupboards will look like. Revit gives you the ability to have your drawings laid out in a way that works for documentation. So at this point now, I can start to add things like dimensions and labels and all of that stuff. However, when you're doing a kitchen design, you might want to go in more detail. So for example, what type of handles are we using? What is the type of stove that we're using, the type of sink? Most of the furniture and the cupboards that we selected here are pretty generic. And that's the idea of using a BIM program. Now, the next stage will be adding those decorative details to the kitchen. But doing that in Revit would be mostly difficult because Revit is really made for you to generate construction documentation. The next layer that we'll add to this will be decoration and detailing.